All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm very excited to see a fairly packed house. You probably heard of Steve through many of his amazing inventions, and I just want to point out a few before we get started. If you've ever used an optical mouse, you've seen Steve's work. If you ever used a search engine, I'm sure everybody has. Steve pioneered search technology through InfoSeek. If you hate spam, well, thank you, Steve, for those spam filters and protecting us all against those unwanted emails, especially those I get from Nigeria offering me millions of dollars. I don't know. I don't know why I never took up on that.
We actually filtered those out so we can keep them for ourselves.
Right.
So that's how we made money. We gave away the spam filters. We kept the $12 million, $25 million offers. So it's been pretty profitable for us, actually.
Oh, great. Steve has started 7 companies. I'll just name a couple. He started InfoSeek, which was bought by Disney. He started Frame Technology, which was bought by Adobe for $500 million. Steve's been pretty widely covered and recognized by the press as well. He's been covered by Forbes, Newsweek, Red Herring, and Worth Magazine. And has a building at MIT named in his honor. It's really cool.
An auditorium.
Auditorium, there you go.
But a $2 million donation helped. Not just that they thought you were a great guy.
So as you can see, Steve is pretty widely recognized, and he's done his share of contributions to the tech world. And that's why Newsweek recognized him as one of the 50 most influential people in the tech industry. Steve, I'm glad you're here with us. I looked up what people say about you, and they refer to you as the current-day Thomas Edison. You've done, quite a variety of things. You've done optical mouse, document processing, search engine, Bitcoin, spam filters, quite a big wide variety of technology. And although it's very different from one to the other, you figured out how to kind of master in each domain. How did you do it? What's your secret?
Well, if I told you my secret, then it wouldn't be a secret. But I just get, I kind of move from things that interest me. I run across problems that need to be solved, and sometimes they present themselves to me, and other times it's like, well, how do you solve this, and how come someone hasn't solved this? So most of these are out of my personal frustration. So I'm in one company working on one thing, and this really bothers me, and then I end up switching because it's just a good transition time.
So let me kind of reflect on your career with the 7 startups that you did. And let me start a little earlier on, as early on as the idea phase itself. How do you come up with a good idea? And then how do you validate that idea? Is there some set of criteria that you've developed that you look at before you pursue an idea? Or do you just focus on something that you're passionate about?
It's mostly stuff that I'm passionate about. Because there's so many things that you can do in the world, right? And why would you go do something just to make money, right? I mean, just to make a lot of money, right? If you did that, you'd do WhatsApp. But, I mean, to me, it's like, how are you spending your time on this earth? You have a finite amount of time. Everyone's got a finite amount of time. Let's go and spend that in doing things that are interesting to you, that solve problems that you can personally relate to. So everything that I've done has all been stuff that I personally related to. So from the optical mouse was because I was at MIT, and I was they made these machines called list machines. They were $200,000 machines, and you couldn't use them because the mice, which were mechanical mice, were always broken. There had to be a better way, and so nobody had come up with one. So I said, well, come on, this isn't that hard. You can do it this way.
Yeah, I remember using where the ball you usually get stuck in while you're moving things.
Yeah, so it would get clogged or just wouldn't turn or what have you. So I came up with an idea. I said, this might work. And I ended up getting an appointment to see Steve Jobs in it was like 30 days. And so I had a concept of how this would work. and I had a 30-day from now meeting with Steve Jobs at Apple Computer to show him this mouse that I had invented, that I hadn't yet built yet. So I had to design all the hardware and design all the software to make that work in 30 days.
So let me switch to a slightly different topic. You hear a company, you hear their pitch, the technology looks great, the market looks great, the opportunity looks great, but the CEO, I guess for lack of better words, is not the right fit. As you might agree, it's really rare to have an innovator, a great engineer, and a CEO all in one. Elon Musk has done it, you've done it fairly successfully, but it's still fairly rare to have that. So when you encounter a situation where you find the CEO is not the right fit, how do you go about having that difficult discussion and then maybe channeling that energy to something else in the company? Any thoughts on that?
So this is from an investor who is invested in a company or wants to invest in a company, but it's not the right guy.
That's right.
Right. And so I think that it depends on the individual, but in general, if it were me being the person that they were talking about, I would want the honest feedback, right? Because I don't think you're doing people any favors by not telling them directly and openly and honestly. And why do we have to beat around the bush? Why can't we simply say, hey, look, this is the situation. I will invest my money, and this is the condition. And then it's up to the entrepreneur to decide whether he wants that person's money or not. And so it's a decision that the entrepreneur has to make. And so you weigh that. And if several investors are telling you the same thing, then you'll get that message. But a lot of times investors will just say, hey, no, I'm not interested, didn't like the market, even though it was the person, because he didn't want to offend the person, because he didn't want to hurt the person's feelings. And I don't think you're doing that entrepreneur a service by doing that. I think you're doing them a disservice. There's a book called Fierce Conversations. It's actually really good. It talks about how to delicately and appropriately deal with issues like that.
Right, and there's often that discussion, definitely in the investor community, where the entrepreneur just listens and they just say, no, sorry, we have to pass, and they're kind of left in the dark, not knowing why. It's
that happens virtually all the time, right? In my experience in dealing with investors is like, we decided to pass, and or you get this email that says, hey, we like you and we like the team and we like da 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 da. But we disagree with certain things, and so we decided to pass. But they never tell you what the certain things are. So then you call them, and then you say, oh, great, hey, thanks for the feedback, but would really appreciate the most important feedback that you can get is what they're not telling you, which is why they decided to pass. And that is the number one thing that investors I'd say 99%, I don't know if it's 99%, but most investors will not really tell you the honest reason that they pass. Would you guys say that that's about right? And so who really benefits from doing that? It's not going to, I guarantee it's not going to benefit the entrepreneur. He may feel better, but his goal is to try to get financing for his company. And so if it's something that he did or some decision that he made or whatever, tell him. And to some extent, I think that people don't do that because they don't want to tip the entrepreneur off to say, hey, you did this wrong, and because they don't want to, I don't know. It's kind of like, hey, if you're not competent, then we really shouldn't make you kind of look competent by telling you what you did wrong, because then you're going to fool some other investor, and we're not going to do that other investor a favor. But I would say that most of the time, almost all the time, getting pure honest feedback is like the best thing that you could ever give an entrepreneur. And if they can't take it, they're probably the wrong guy anyway.
Well, I think one of the reasons that investors just want to say no, and this is what I've heard, is because if they engage in a discussion with the entrepreneur of why they're saying no, the entrepreneur just comes back and gives them 34 different reasons of why no, it's going to work this way or that way. Rather than listening, they're doing something else.
Yeah, but I think there there's an appropriate level of back and forth, right? And so to me, when I present for an investor, it's typically, I make the presentation and the investor says yes or no. And if it's a no, that's it. That's the end of the discussion. And to me, that's like going in front of a judge and presenting your case and not having at least one chance to rebut it. And I think that every entrepreneur deserves at least one chance to clarify whether the reasons that the investor had for passing were perhaps a misunderstanding.
I want to talk about something that you mentioned. You talked about WhatsApp and those kind of companies for a couple of times. So let's talk about valuation. Typically the investors and entrepreneurs disagree and have a falling out on the valuation itself. What's your take on how to approach this?
Valuation is all about supply and demand, right? And so the best way to approach it is to say, hey, let's do a convertible note, right? And it's priced at a 20% discount to the next round, and then you don't have to worry about it, right? That's what most of you guys do. So hey, that solves the problem right there. But then you negotiate whether it's 20% or 25% or 30% or 10% or whatever, depending on how hot the company is. And so that's one way. The second way is that, okay, now it's your time to do where you're doing a Series A or seed financing and all that, and people wonder, hey, what's really a seed versus an A? I finally found that I've been doing this for 7 startups. I finally found out what the difference is between a seed round, the official difference between a seed round and an A round from talking with various venture capitalists. And the answer is that it's what you call it. Isn't that, some people call it C, some people call it A. It does make it, it's just a round of financing, guys. It's really not that difficult, right, to figure out, oh, are you a seed round or are you an A round? It doesn't really matter. It's just a round of financing. And so the thing is that for the value, I could, when I did one idea, I said I wanted the 10 million pre-money valuation. And I said I wouldn't settle for anything less. And I shopped the deal until I got the price that I wanted. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is simply you shop your deal, you get your offers, you collect your offers. Oh, I got one at 3 pre-money, got one at 5, got one at 6, one got at 7. I like this guy a little bit better than the other guy. I'll take that. It's pure supply and demand, right?
So do you go for the best valuation or do you go for the best partners?
There's no way to answer that. Because there is not a form, I cannot answer that in the abstract because this is it depends problem. It depends on who the investors are and what the history of that, and you do the research, you go on to the, there's that, investor portal thing, what's the name of it? The Funded, yes, thank you. Yeah. You can do the research on the Funded and, it's actually, there are a lot of great comments there. And so you look at that and you talk to other people and you do your research and then you have to gauge.
Yeah. No, let me follow up with that. Would you ever take a lower valuation just to work with someone that you really like?
Yes, but not that much lower.
Let me ask you, some investors bet on the market and some bet on the team. I think Sequoia might be an example where they've bet on the market and they figure, if there's some people we need to change in the team, we'll go ahead and do that and drive it to success. But we often hear, on the other hand, team, team, team. So is it the market or the team?
So I'm going to give this one to the audience, right? Because I got 3 lifelines, right? I got to phone a friend, I can eliminate 2, and I can ask the audience. So on this one, I'm just kind of curious. I'll tell you my point of view, but I just want to see what you guys think, just to get a little audience participation, make sure you're all awake. So how many people think that the 2 approaches are you find a team, or you have the concept, and then you do the Sequoia thing of finding a team around the concept, or vice versa. So how many people think the Sequoia approach is the better approach?
So the market approach, how many people go for the market? Okay.
Okay, and how many people go for the team?
All right.
Okay.
Team wins.
Okay. So I would answer that question completely differently than you guys. This is say who has a different answer than yeah.
Page out your book. It depends. Yes.
Yes, it does depend, yes. Okay,
That
so,
was an option.
yeah, that's right. But it was to sort of trap you into thinking, because we always think about things in right or wrong. Like, this is the right way to do things, or this is the correct way. But, life isn't so simple that we can put everything in black and white, that this is the right way and this is the better way. And to me, the correct answer is that it depends, because if you're Sequoia and you're really good at recruiting teams to match a vision, and that is your expertise, and that is in your DNA, and you've got recruiters on staff, and you know how to do this, and you've done it 50 times, and you're super successful, why mess with this, right? Then, that's your modus operandi. And, it's kind of like a golf swing, right? What is the right way to do a golf swing? Well, it depends on who your instructor is, doesn't it? Because, there's sort of the general, hey, this is where your hand should be, and da-da-da-da-da, but, is it really important that I get, exactly the thing, or should I do what's natural? And some instructors will tell you one thing, and other instructors, and you end up doing what works for you. And so it's really the same thing for investing in the team versus some people really can do the, pick the market and build a team. I think that's harder to do. It's much easier to find. The right thing is to find a team and a product and go for it, because you don't have time to mess with this stuff, right? That's what I would do. Is neither of those. I would look for both.
Have you ever watched Shark Tank?
Yes, it's great. Love it.
So
I'm out.
in that you always notice the sharks wanting more and more equity, and the founder getting squeezed out with very little equity. I know it's a TV show and there's a lot of drama associated, but some components of that are true in reality as well, where you hear a company gets a great exit, but the founders really don't make out that much. What's a good balance to have in terms of an equity split so that the founders are kept motivated throughout the whole process?
So I'm not sure that there's any one right answer to that. You need to have enough motivation such that these guys are coming to work every day and they're focused on making the business successful, as opposed to, I don't have any equity in this, why am I wasting my time here? I can go to Facebook and get a better option, or I can go to Google and get paid $500,000 a year or whatever. They're going to start looking around, right? They're not going to be engaged. And so if the investors get too greedy, it's like the pigs get, slaughter.
Right.
So, it's not a good thing, right? So you have to balance it. And I think that investors who are too greedy get burned. It comes around to bite them. And I've had investors try to screw me as an entrepreneur in terms of saying, hey, we need to do this, this, and this, and the investor says, no, we're not going to approve that, or it's going to be these really bad terms. And so that has one effect, which is I will never do business with that investor again. And the second thing is that I'm not going to recommend, if someone says, oh, I'm thinking about getting an investment from so-and-so, I'd say, hey, if you can get anyone else, I would steer away. And so this stuff comes around to bite you
it's very
in many ways.
short-sighted.
It's very short-sighted.
Right.
It's investors should always be looking for win-win situations. And those are the best deals. And when I do business deals, I'm focused on win-win relationships. And I know that other companies are it's kind of like some people are very win-lose. Like, I want to squeeze this vendor for as much as possible, as opposed to I want to have a great relationship with this vendor. I want you to prosper and me to prosper, and we're going to prosper together as a team, rather than I'm going to see if I can get this for the very minimal amount to squeeze you guys as much as possible.
We're all here to get inspired by you. I want to know who's your inspiration? Where do you get your inspiration from?
What motivates me is changing the world in a really positive and meaningful way, right? If I can get my OneID technology and everybody using that, the world will love me. That will be like the most amazing thing, to go from such a horrible experience in authenticating and having to remember these usernames and passwords, just having one simple password that you can see everywhere securely, not to worry about malware.
Yeah, you're removing a huge pain point, for sure.
Right.
Right.
It's going to help me.
Yeah.
So number one is like, what motivates me is, wow, I get to use this, and I can get to use this, and I don't have to figure out which of these Google things I have to go and do, and what was my Facebook password, right? So part of it is so for my own use, but the other part of it is because, wow, I've actually made a difference here. I have a short amount of time on the planet. And then I meet incredible people doing what I'm doing. So, I asked Elon Musk to lunch, and he accepted. And so I had lunch with Elon Musk at Tesla headquarters, and he talked to me about some of his challenges, and just amazing stories listening to him. So it's kind of this once in a lifetime experience to be able to be share time with these guys who are just amazing, and get to know them and get to meet them, and and Elon to me is just like off the charts, because I sent him an email saying, oh, there's a problem with my Tesla, and like 5 seconds later you get a response from him, and then a service guy who's on it. And it's the same kind of response you get from Michael Dell, who's like, when you send Michael Dell an email, he'll I don't know if he still does this, but it used to be like a 30-second response time. Just amazing. These guys are just really responsive to any kind of feedback on suggestions for improving the product or what have you, that they're really on top of it. They really care about customers. And anyway, so it's getting to meet those people, and that's inspirational for me to see those guys and how they operate.
You've made another type of list, and more than once. The Worth magazine's list of top 10 givers in the United States, and again for the top 100 most generous Americans. Hillary Clinton presented you with an award, the National Caring Award, that is given to individuals that devote their lives in service to others. I mean, you've done so much to help others. Can you take a few minutes and talk about what motivated you to start your charity, the Kirsch Foundation, and maybe one of the initiatives that you're currently working on?
There are some problems that are out there that may affect me or people that I care about. And that maybe I can make a difference in the world in a way, that I'm not directly involved in, but help other people to achieve their dreams in making the world a better place. And so we started the foundation and funded it. We had about $100 million or so at one point, and tried to focus on areas where we thought we could make a difference. And so I asked my staff to say, hey, what are the underserved markets, right? Where there's a market niche that we can make a difference, and that we can have huge positive impact that's greater than the amount that we invest. And so one of the things that we did was my science director said, oh, we should invest in glaucoma research. And I said, well, why do you think we should do that? Because it's ripe for a breakthrough, because they've had no progress at all. But if we bring in scientists from outside the field, maybe we can stimulate some new thinking and maybe come up with some new ideas. So she had this concept of bringing 4 scientists together who had never worked in the glaucoma space before, and to have them work in a collaborative fashion, even though they were at 4 different institutions, and they were selected because they could collaborate. And we got the Glaucoma Research Institute to co-fund with us this collaboration. It's called Catalyst for a Cure. And so they've made some very remarkable, it's been going now for, I don't know, 10 years or so. And so they've made some very important discoveries in terms of glaucoma. So I could, I'm looking for them to make a positive impact, right? And so maybe it's this glaucoma thing that turns out to be the big, the most important contribution that I made. But I'm looking to make some mark on the world that, at the end of the day, I've done something that made it better for my kids and my family and people I care about.
No, definitely, you're doing some amazing work, and things that you can leave behind, and people can say this is very important work that you've done. Yeah. So what can we expect from Steve Kirsch in the future? You're doing One ID in Bitcoin now. What's out?
I don't know. I always swore that I wouldn't do, this is going to be my last company, and I'm not going to do this again. It's too hard. And there's the old joke that only mediocre people start companies. Do you know why? Do you know why that is? It's the smart people know better.
Steve, I want to thank you and it's been personally been a motivation, very inspiring and motivational for me and for the audience as well. I applaud your efforts that you're doing in the charitable arm of the Kirsch Foundation, and I look forward to seeing some more cool inventions from you in the future. Yeah, thank you once again for coming. Appreciate it.